Greetings, everyone. Welcome back again to another edition of Siaki Night Live versus Siaki Now Live. I kind of forget. It's been a long time. I know. I'm really sorry about that. It's just been operations, surgery. I mean, and flying, and we've been gone. I've only been back about 3 weeks now, just getting caught up with things. And just thought I would start out by giving you guys a bit of an update about what's happening, what we've been doing, and about these crazy past few months. So, but before I do, I wanna just ask your prayer specifically, just in case you really don't watch the whole video, but specifically for our young friend who is the leader of the youth that we disciple in the squatter camp Zansprit that we go to every Friday afternoon, evening. Barbara and I disciple the young people there. And in Tlanthla, he's in charge, and he was one of our youth a decade ago. You know, it's so great being here 24 years. We're able to see people go up through the discipling that we do and become leaders and go into ministry and do a number of things. Like even one of someone who we had been discipling, Linda, from our first church when we were in Soweto. He was discipled by me all for a long time, and he is now the one who's taken over as pastor of our church Unusual that we planted a long time back, and that I gave to another pastor, and then he passed it on to Linda. So there's just such great things about being here for 24 years, so the longevity of it, and we're seeing the fruits. So, but in Tlantla, if you remember, we got him a car to try and help him to do a job like Uber Bolt, but he's with Bolt, and he has just been robbed so many times at gunpoint or a knife held to his throat. We can't even count, honestly. It just happens so much. And they rob him and, threaten to beat him. And so it's just been terrible. We've asked him to stop going at nights. He stopped, and he just tries to make money during the day, but he still has the ministry of the young people. And then he is facing so much opposition. Really, just spiritual warfare is happening with him. And this young man is dedicated, but there's this thing where people see that he's gotten a car and they think, oh, you're better than us, and there's just all kinds of opposition from people. And one time he went out and there was blood on his car. Someone had tried to, put some black magic on that, and things have happened in his house. He just has a little shack, actually, just a very small space, and he's trying to raise a family, and his wife just had a baby, and they're trying to fit into this small place, and they're anyway, but. And then the other day, he went out to his car, and someone had nailed 3 nails into each of his front two tires. And it's just stuff like that he's facing every day. The wife has moved out to try and stay with her mother, just feeling unsafe because he had gotten a dog for protection. And the dog was, leashed right there at the front door, or the front where he locks everything. And then one day he went out, and someone had poisoned the dog. So it was just a huge loss to him and emotionally tough for him. And he had to bury her himself too, just find an open space of dirt and just bury her. So please pray for Ntlantla. He is just a great young man who wants to serve God, and just pray that there's a way we can get him out of that situation. I know he thinks a little bit like he should be in the place since he's working with the people, but if I could move him out, I would. So anyway, that's just one. I want to just get that out to you to please pray for Ntlantla and what he's going through. And so you're not supposed to travel after a knee replacement for 3 months, because there is a very distinct possibility for a blood clot, and so I was taking blood thinners when I flew. But it took me 30 something hours to get there. I spent 16 hours in Singapore, which is good because Singapore is one of my favorite countries. And yeah, and then when I got to New Zealand, um, I may have had a small blood clot because I have no memory from when I landed in New Zealand to 6 hours later when I was having dinner with my brother and his family in a restaurant. And my sister in law, I was just speaking to her the following day at another dinner, and I said to her, "Hey, did I tell you that I fell asleep during a root canal?" And she was like, Paul, this is the third time you're telling me this story. Are you all right? And I was like, third time? What are you talking about? So, the family starts asking me questions, and things are coming up, and I'm repeating myself, and they keep saying, "Hey, you said that." And I have no memory of this bit of time. This is about 6 hours. And then we were getting in the van that I had rented so that we could get around together, and the side mirror had been pushed in. And my brother asked, "Hey, what happened there?" And I had a flash, and it was this like the bus driver looking at me. I remember seeing something like that, like a flash, and I hit a bus. I were going sideways by the mirror. I clipped a bus, and that is the only thing, a flash, that I can remember. And I praise God for protection. I praise God that I did not run into the back of the bus or run into anybody. Um, yeah, so that was a little bit scary when I started thinking through all of that. But it hasn't happened since, so everything is good. And I had a lot of blood thinners because I was making so many international flights. So I went from Joburg, all the way down to New Zealand, and then I did my mom's memorial service, which was really good. Praise God for it, and yeah, some relatives had come from Australia, and we were all together, and there were videos. My sister unfortunately couldn't make it, but her and her family each gave little eulogies, and it was great. And so I'll miss my mom. I called her 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. my time, and we would talk for an hour. And so not being able to call my mom up and tell her things going on is something that really just weighs heavily. So it was good, and I only spent like 4 hectic days in New Zealand. And I left the day after the memorial service, and because of the relatives from Australia coming, we all went out to dinner. Um, I hadn't packed yet, fully packed. We get back to the house about 11. I do the packing, 11:30. I'm trying to go to sleep. I take a bunch of sleeping pills. I am not falling asleep. And then I actually started to get emotional, thinking about my mom and the service. So it's about 12:31. My flight, my flight was at 6 a.m. Going to LAX, and so I had to check in at 3 a.m. And I'm just thinking, God, I have to sleep. Please let me sleep. I got up at 1, and it was like God was saying, "Hey, get up, go." So I got up, and I've never done it before in my life, and I did not go to sleep to go onto a flight. And I took a shower, packed the rest of my stuff up, went to the airport. It was funny, got checked in at 3 a.m., but security and all the rest of the airport didn't get there till 4:30 a.m. So you're just sitting around. Well, also, I would not suggest that you fly at this time. Flying was just terrible. It was bad, delays, cancellations. Whoa, it was not good. Every place that I landed, luckily I was able to get my bags. There were hundreds of bags just on the floor, pushed to the walls. So not a good time. Did I already mention Dominic didn't get his suitcase? He came back and he didn't get his suitcase for 2 weeks. So it was crazy. And the girls with their original flight, it got canceled. By the way, I did fly to LAX, then caught up and went up to Denver, and was meeting Dominic and Barbara there. And Dominic was able to, with his friend, put out a video game. By the way, if you're interested, the company is called Rocking Donkey Games, and the video game that they came up with is called Intergalactic Taxi Company, and you can get it on Play Store or Steam. But then his friend got a job offer. A robotics company headhunted him, so they had to stop. So Dominic decided, hey, I'm not going to just stay here. So he decided to come back with us. So he came back to South Africa with the girls when they came back, and so he is back home with us. We are all together, not really all together, but all in South Africa. Dominic is the only one staying in the house. Michaela has her apartment, and she got a part-time job, and she is doing that and finishing her courses online to get her degree. And Isabel is hard at work in her practicum as a speech therapist. She's going to different hospitals there in Pretoria. She stays in an apartment out in Pretoria. And so at least we get to see each other. Everybody comes together on a Friday night. We have pizza and video together, and try and see each other as much as possible over the weekend. So we were able to see Dominic for a little bit, but then we spent most of our time in Colorado with a little bit with our headquarters. Not as much time as we would have liked to, but we didn't have time really. We flew to San Jose, spent about a week there, and that's when we started seeing people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I kid you not. And we had wonderful hosts we stayed with. But it started to get tiring living out of a suitcase, and we were only in our first week. But sometimes we'd finish a breakfast and we'd look at each other and we'd go, wow, we're eating lunch in an hour. So that was a bit rough. But and then we flew down to Orange County. And we were, again, we were privileged by just some wonderful friends and supporters to be able to stay in some of the beach cities and apartments that they had and places that they had. And so it was beautiful to be down there. It was kind of a shame that Barbara and I were busy breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were able to clear a day where we just spent as a family and went to the beach and did some fun stuff. So that was really good. But then as Barbara and I were doing our things, the kids were together doing all of their things. They just loved it, being together, all three of them, again, finally, after quite some time. And they did their thing. They did Disneyland. They went into LA. So it was just great for them. And we had some parties where people threw parties where we could meet supporters and other friends and family. So I thank you to those of you who hosted the party for us and made things possible. We really appreciate it. It was such a blessing. And so just we're sorry if we didn't get to see you while we were there. It was tough trying to cram everything into 2.5 weeks or whatever it was when we were in Southern California. And it was, whew, and when you pack and when you get going. So as I said, I left a day earlier than them, and I went to London, and my flight out of LAX was delayed 3 hours. So as I was flying, I used their app and I checked, and they had put me up to the 8 o'clock flight. And as we were later, because of they had to fly around in a circle till they got in a spot, they pushed me to the 9 o'clock. We missed that, and they pushed me to the 10 p.m. And we got down in Newark Airport at 9:40. So I had 20 minutes to make it to that 10 o'clock flight. And it was 45 gates away, and I had the wheelchair still. And I told the lady, I'm going to give you $20 if you can get me to that gate on time. And she just hustled. And we got to the gate, and there's like no activity at the gate. And I'm going, what's going on? And I look up, and the board says delayed until 2:30 a.m. So, and I was out $20. So I just, oh boy, yeah. So we didn't actually leave till 3:30 a.m. Talk about being tired. I was supposed to get into to London at 8:30 in the morning. Someone was there to pick me up, and I missed it, but at least I got to tell them. I didn't get there till 3:30 p.m. So I had to make my way to the venue using I went on a train, and then I got a taxi, made it to the venue, and I, I just crashed, which was a shame because they had started a kind of a get to know you sessions for this little mini conference retreat that we were having. All right, as you can tell, this is a different day. So an emergency happened, I had to attend to. So where were we? Oh, I got to that venue, and we were actually at a different venue eventually later in the week, and it was this huge campus, and the where the main auditorium was a 20-minute walk from the dorm that they had put me in. And so I couldn't do it, not with my knee. And I started to go around on this thing. So I put life and limb, like my right limb, on the line. But thank God I didn't crash. So, and I just wanted to say, I was privileged to be invited by a denomination to be part of their global commission on evangelism and discipleship. And there's an umbrella organization under that that deals with church planting, and that was the group that was meeting. And it was just so amazing as we began talking about the goals for this group. And we started throwing out some numbers, and it is just amazing as the numbers started coming out, and someone said, why don't we do this? Well, let's make this the goal. A great BHAG. You know what a BHAG is, or a bag, or whatever? It's a bold? Anyway, bold, hairy, audacious goal. Okay? And this group came up with it that they would plant 1 million vibrant evangelistic new churches in 10 years. Isn't that incredible? 1 million churches around the world to be planted. And it was just so incredible at this meeting, as we would as people would walk around, and we would talk to people from all over the world, and especially in Africa, as you know, that probably that Christianity is growing so fast. And there were places where people were saying, "Oh, we just had a conference, and now we've planted 3 churches." And so there's a lot of work, as you can imagine, ahead. But it was just I praise God for it. When we put that number out, everyone just literally sat back and said, can that be done? And we knew that figure had to come from God. So I hope that excites you, because that really excites me. And then I flew back, and it was just good to be back after 6 weeks on the road. Living out of a suitcase was a bit tough. So I wouldn't recommend it, but I hope that a lot of things happened that were good on our really crazy, hectic, short furlough. Um, and Barb and I were talking to people just very much about 24 years being on the field, and what the longevity and the kind of thing you can build into, and the discipling of people, and where they are now, the people who have come to Christ. And it's just it was just encouraging to see so much of that stuff when we started looking at it. And we just praise God for what's happening, and how he leads and opens doors. When I came back, I had been invited to fly immediately down to Durban to speak, but I was just wasted, and but so I knew that would happen, so I declined that. And then in that week, a church group was having an all-night prayer meeting, and they invited me to come, and I said, "Well, I've done this. I've been up all night once, and that's all I can do." And I said I could come for the first hour, and it was good. They had a great time. I was just there to encourage them. But would you please pray for South Africa and all that's going on? There, we are really going through some challenging times, just because of at least a decade or more of very bad corruption on so many levels and in government. We Our infrastructure is starting to fall apart, and we have electricity blackouts 2 to 4 hours a day now. And oh, and a pipe broke here in our neighborhood, so we have no water. Haven't had it in 2 days. So that goes on, and so no water, no electricity. um, it's just kind of a little bit crazy, and there's so much instability. There's just talk of because we have such a disparity with rich and poor. There's just been talk of some rioting, protests going on. So and it, prices of everything are rising, inflation. So it's really tough, and the crime is really bad. It just because of from COVID and then now, and we have to be more vigilant too. So okay, that's it. And I just want to say, if you've watched this till the end, you are a dyed in the wool fan of the Siaki family. And if you're giving financially to us, thank you so much. And if you're praying, thank you so much. We really appreciate those prayers. On this furlough, we were actually trying to raise a certain amount of money because we have been down. There is a deficit in our budget, and in fact, a lovely couple that we stayed with, we were just talking, and they said, "Oh, you're under supported," and they, they didn't know, and so they came on as financial supporters, and that was just wonderful for us. But I think most people don't know. They think that we're perfectly fine and good, but we have had a lot of people who have retired, died, and then COVID have hit some, so they've had to stop giving, and so I just want to kind of make an appeal. If maybe you just never thought about it, we came up with this little flyer. Um, I can send it to you if you want to. But we just realized that if we're heading towards retirement at maybe 65, 67, or 70, we don't know when we'll retire, or missionaries really don't retire. But we realized if you wanted to give until 65, perhaps you've never given before, but you haven't thought about increasing your giving. But if you gave for 10 years, that would be only 120 gifts in 10 years. If you think about it as 120, it doesn't really seem to be too hard a goal. Anyway, so that's just to let you know, and yeah, see what you think. So there will be some details in the email that came. If you want to start giving, that would be fantastic. So thank you again, those who do give, and those who pray, and those of you who watch this video all the way to the end. And I hope you have a fantastic week, and just make that God may bless you in every way. Thanks.